Those are just the facts, right? So whether or not you want to say that the tariff money is worth it, that might be true or not. But at the end of the day, that money is just sitting in a bank account, right? They could have put in the big, beautiful bill that they were going to take that tariff money and invest it in American manufacturing. That was Trump's big selling point, but they did not put that into that key piece of legislation, right? So that's why hold up, and that's why the Supreme Court has positioned that they will probably strike down Trump's tariffs because it is a tax on the American people that is not clear, right? There's one thing to have taxes, but there's another thing to have taxes that you don't even know exactly how much you're paying in those taxes.
Well, you got to tell me what those taxes are, because right now I don't see it. I don't see those taxes, and we don't know. And we don't know what the Supreme Court is going to do because he's been getting some big wins. And I just heard some stuff about Ketanji Brown Jackson looking like she's going to rule in his favor. So we got to hold on that one. Don't jump all over that one. All right?
I can tell you about that in Justin Jackson's ruling when it comes to SNAP. It is a little confusing because obviously she's the liberal justice, and she is technically upholding Trump's they're withholding the SNAP, and she is essentially putting a stay out on them being able to withhold and then sending it back to the lower court. We can talk about that. But we do have some people calling in that want to be a part of the conversation. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to go to Chris from Naperville. Chris, you are on the Rickey Hendon radio show with Rickey Hendon Jr. and Verlon. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm good. I just got some comments on tariffs. How come you never bring up the fact that inflation rate has actually gone down? And so if tariffs are really having an effect, we can see that in the inflation rate.
Okay, all right, let me answer your first question. Let me answer your first question. So you say the inflation rate. Okay, so the inflation rate, yes, at the peak of Biden's presidency, right, you saw inflation numbers at the 10% level. That was too high. They passed the Inflation Reduction Act. They should have done more. I think that's something that I can be very honest about when it comes to the Biden's presidency. He should have gone and done more price cap regulations, specifically around oil and gas. So I will give you that. But when you talk about the inflation rate, that doesn't mean inflation has gone down. It is now at about 3%, but the target rate for the Federal Reserve is 2%. Right. But that is an important piece of the conversation. The second most important piece of the conversation is that the actual value of the U.S. dollar relative to the rest of the world has dropped by 11% since Trump took office. That is the lowest drop in 50 years, and that is according to Morgan Stanley. Right. So we are losing money rapidly under Trump like nothing we've seen in a half century.
Now, what you're not factoring in is the fact that when countries like China have been hit with these tariffs, they have also devalued their currency quite a bit, more than 11%. And that in large way has covered what the tariff cost has been to the American consumer. So go and look at your records. They used to have 6 yuan to the U.S. dollar. Now it's up to almost 7. So to keep their people employed, a lot of these countries have devalued their currency to the U.S. dollar to offset these tariffs. Number two, let me think of what I was saying. Okay. I'm going to go off on another subject, but I want to ask you one other question about the tariffs, because this is what me and Verlon spent a lot of time talking about as well. So obviously we know from the data, right, that this is costing the American consumers anywhere in from I think 600 billion to about $1 trillion. The numbers that Trump has thrown out versus the numbers from the Russell Vault and the you just said that you don't know how much it's passed through because you're not factoring in the devaluation of these currencies from these foreign. No.
I didn't say I didn't know how much it's passed through. I'm saying that that's the problem with tariffs. You can't track it. Amazon tried to put a tariff charge on your invoice when you bought something, and the Trump administration said that it would be like a hostile act. So no, they should be honest. They should just put on.
Then you'd see if it was as high as you say it is, the inflation rate would be higher than 3%. Also,
these are the numbers coming out from the federal government. If you don't trust them, Chris, that's on you.
Give me your source. No, give me your source, because the inflation rate has been below expectations by the Fed for the last 2 quarters.
Below expectation. Okay, you see, you're trying to use words below expectations, but the target rate is still 2%. No, hold up.
It was 3%.
You asked me a question, Chris. I'm going to answer your question. My source is the Federal Reserve. Okay, so yes, the inflation target, right, is 2% kind of long term. Obviously, with COVID and supply chains breaking down,
but
there's
when
a new normal. No, Chris,
hey,
you gotta let me. You gotta let me finish.
The facts.
I'm telling you the facts, okay? I know
you don't
the
know
facts.
the facts.
All right, well,
their target for the quarter was 3.2%. And it came in at 3.
Chris, I'm saying the target ideal rate for the Federal Reserve pre-COVID, pre-supply chains breaking down, this
you're
new
really
normal.
Stretching this one out. You don't know. You don't have a clue what you're talking about.
Okay.
No,
you know
gotta
what,
go
Chris?
Quarter by
take
quarter.
Take care, Chris.
Chris, just let him talk. Chris, let him talk. Chris, hey, Chris.
Hey, can I jump in for a second? Can I jump in for a second?
Verlon.
Hey, Paul, it's my show. Let's drop Chris because this is not a real conversation. He's just telling me I'm wrong, and this is not a real conversation.
But what you're getting at, I wanted you to get to your point about inflation pre-COVID was at like 1.8%, 2%. And then the supply chain issues of COVID happened. Everything was wonky. It's in recovery. The rate is now currently higher than where it was a year ago under Biden.
So we need to have a larger conversation about macroeconomics right now. So Chris, can we do that, or do we gotta drop you, man? Because if you're going to cut me off, ask me a question and cut me off within 10 seconds, then we can't talk.
Well, go ahead.
Okay, so
but give me the truth. Don't tell me about 2-year expectations of 2% when we're trying to deal with the crummy Biden's economy for 4 years.
Did I not acknowledge the fact that inflation was too high under Biden? I did. All right, so let me give me an opportunity to talk. So what I was trying to say was pre-COVID, right? Before supply chains broke down, before the world changed as a whole, right? The target rate from the Fed has always been 2%, right? And the reason for that is that you want to have some level of inflation so that you can maintain interest rates, for banks and finances, central bank, et cetera. Okay, so that's always been the core goal. Yes, inflation right now is 3%, but I was acknowledging the fact that, yes, the inflation rate is coming down, but it's still higher than what the overall ideal target is for any healthy economy. Okay, so that's what I was trying to say. So I know what I'm talking about. Don't sit here and tell me I don't know what I'm talking about. Okay, but we do have a lot of other callers calling in.
No, but here's where you're wrong. You are saying
wrap it up, Chris, and then I got to go to some of our other callers.
This is where you're talking about. You started out the conversation about how tariffs are affecting the economy and affordability. Yet you just acknowledged that the inflation rate. How come it's not showing up in the inflation rate?
How come the tariffs aren't showing up in the inflation rate?
That's right.
Well, I don't know. Trump's out here firing a lot of the people who put out the numbers, so that might be a part of it.
So the way you talked about affordability with these tariffs, inflation ought to be going up, and it's not.
I mean, Trump's firing a lot of the people who are putting a lot of the numbers out. But at the end of the day, hold up.
You don't know Chad.
Chris, all right. So you know what, Chris? Thanks for coming on. I will answer what you said, but again, you're not letting me talk when you ask me a question, so I got to drop you. Sorry. Paul?
Oh, I'm looking at the rates right now.
Can you get him off so that we can get somebody else on? Thank you. Okay. Chris, feel free to continue to listen. So at the end of the day, listen, when it comes to what people are actually paying, you guys can try to spin it however you want, but these tariffs are an optional decision that are being put out solely by Trump. Congress is not voting on them. That means that we don't have any power to influence the tariff numbers that we are all paying, whether you know it or not. Verlon, I know you're still with me. Feel free to stick on. My father wants to call in, so clearly he must have something really exciting that he wants to talk about here. He wants to jump on in, so we'll get him into the conversation. And I love these economic conversations because the numbers don't lie. The numbers don't lie. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know the answer to every single question about every single thing when it comes to numbers because I don't want to give false information. But when you ask me about high-level things and understanding macroeconomics as a whole, usually I know what's going on. So, Rickey Hendon, Senior, Dad. I don't know if I've ever called you Senior, but welcome to the show, Dad. You're with me and Verlon on the Rickey Hendon Radio Show on WCPT 820 AM. What's going on? Feeling better?
Yeah, don't be calling me
Senior. How's it going, Rick? How you doing, man?
Don't be calling me Senior.
Get my son first. Don't be calling me Senior. But hey, I just want to thank Verlon for coming on. You know, it's hard enough for a Republican to be willing to come on after the ass kicking they just took. But it's tough, and so I really appreciate you, Verlon. And I wanted
How
to
you doing,
I wish
man?
I was different. I'm doing great.
How you doing?
God is good.
Okay.
That's what I told my son. people know that I beat cancer. I had the surgery. Everything went great. My doctors were great at Northwestern. I'm putting out there so men will get their prostate checked because you add many, many years to your life. Having said that, son, you are just so almost too kind. I would have been hung up on Chris because there are people like him who just want to argue their point and they do not want to have a conversation. So, you're much more kind than I would have been by a long shot because it's not about him. They filibuster you. It's about conversation. We were one of the first to allow Republicans really to even be guests on our show or come on our show because we believe it's healthy to hear both sides. But don't let these people, try to jack you because they so pissed off right now because they got beat so bad. And on the inflation, let me do the the Supreme Court put how Jackson ruled so people would understand it.
Sure.
And then I'm going to get up. She made a strategic move that pretty much was giving Trump a little room with the agreement that he wouldn't do anything else. And that if the lower court, which they will, rules against him, then the other members of the Supreme Court are going to go along with her. You have to compromise sometime. She ain't sell us out. She made a deal that would allow after 2-3 days, when the federal court rules again that Trump cannot do what he do, the other members of the Supreme Court are going to vote along with her to stop him. The other thing people better watch for is he has threatened to get rid of help for seniors during the winter with your heating bills. People need to watch that one. That's his next play, right? To freeze you to death, starve you to death. Starving ain't going to work because SNAP, they're going to lose that. Now he's going to threaten to freeze us to death. And winter is upon us. So we got to be very, very careful about that. On the tariffs, the last thing is I don't care what Chris or nobody else say. Go to the store. All you got to know that prices is up is go to the store. Yeah. I was at Walmart, one of the stores that really supposed to be the cheapest, as you know, son, to get juicers and things like that to help with my health. The ones that were normally $19.95 per line was $39. Okay? So
it's cheaper than it was on the Biden. I'm going to keep saying that.
The ones that was $19 under Biden, I bought them, was now $39 under Trump. You can say whatever you want. The Thanksgiving dinner that Trump is pushing right now that's cheaper at Walmart is cheaper, but guess what? You're getting less food. So people aren't stupid. Chris, Verlon, whoever, we're not stupid. If you're getting less food in the package, yeah, the price went down, and you could, the price went down, but you're getting less food for Thanksgiving. Yeah. This man is cruel. His people are cruel. Y'all got beaten wide for a reason. Rick, you're doing a great job. Keep up the good work. Love you, Verlon. Appreciate you coming on.
Love you too, brother. I love you too, man.
Listen on the radio. You tell me that I'm wrong. You can start with the Thanksgiving turkey dinner at Walmart. Is there less food in dinner or not? And I'll holler back. Yeah. Peace. See y'all next week.
All right. Appreciate it, Dad. Thank you for calling.
Take it easy, man.
Yeah.
Junior.
What's going on? Well, real quick then, thanks for sticking with us, Verlon. I'm just going to reset the show since we're at the 30-minute mark. You are all listening to the Rickey... Give me 1 second so I'll reset the show. You are listening to the Rickey Hendon radio show on WCPT 820 AM. You are with Rickey Hendon Jr. here in the studio today. The senior is... senior, the senator. He told me not to call him that. I literally just called him that again. The senator is off today, but he did just call in and give us some of his thoughts on a couple different topics. So, Verlon, I will give you a moment to kind of talk about something that you want to talk about here. Obviously, it's been a rough week for the Republicans in a lot of ways. It's been a rough week for the country, too. People are starving, right? Let's not lose sight of the fact that, this is a political conversation. We're talking about SNAP, but at the end of the day, you have 42 million people not having access to the funding that they have to feed themselves that they did just a month ago. So, one other thing I want to say, and I'm sorry, but I have to say this, especially since we just reset the show. If you have the means to be able to help people right now, I highly, highly, highly encourage you to do so. One organization that I just volunteered with yesterday is called the Chicago Greater Food Depository. They are fantastic. It's a great place to show up and help bag and package food for people. If you donate to them, they also give their food and their essentially all their resources to 850 different local organizations. So they're kind of like the central management hub for a lot of the food banks here in Chicago. And so I highly encourage to help donate, volunteer with them if you do want to help people in this time, because it is a difficult time for a lot of people. So with this, everyone, I'll turn it over to you. What do you want to talk about? I'm very curious why you still support Trump and a topic that you might be interested in.
Okay, I want to segue to your other two topics. I don't want to get off your topics. I love to talk about your topics. Number one, the shutdown. Number two, what your father just said about us losing. Mm-hmm. But the shutdown is the biggest thing going on right now. Yeah. Now, this is the Democrat shutdown because listen, this CR is the same CR that Republicans signed on to under Joe Biden. 13 times they signed. We tore them a new one for signing on with the Democrats and passing it. We tore Mike Johnson a new one every single time. But now, since Trump is in office and Trump passed the big, beautiful law, it's not a bill anymore, the law, they want to give Medicaid and health coverage to illegals and able-bodied people that could be working. And if you do that, you're gutting the big, beautiful law. The Republicans are not going to let that happen. And I've already proved that illegals are getting Medicaid. I proved it on the other show that comes on Sunday. They had even given in on that one and started talking about percentages. And you're talking to somebody that works in health care. I know for a fact that illegals get health care. The nurses showed me how they do it and what paperwork to sign and the administration. So we're not even going to go down that road.
Well, let's do it. Let's go down that road. That's what we're passionate about. Let's talk about it.
The bottom line is Donald Trump reformed Medicaid so we could save more money in Medicaid, get able-bodied people back to work. All you got to do is work 24 hours in a week, and you'll get Medicaid. You'll get health coverage. And illegals should not be getting health coverage off of the backs of the taxpayer.
Okay.
That is totally unacceptable. And the final thing is,
go ahead.
And the final thing is, this is the Democrat shutdown because they're holding the American people hostage for that, and they want Obama tax credits. And they want to hold that as an issue. I just saw Chuck Schumer said we're going to do it for a year. Republicans aren't stupid. They want this same issue to happen right before the midterms. We're not going to let that go. They need to sign off on the CR.
You admit it's an issue then? Okay, so there's a couple different things I have to address there. Man, where do I start? Paul, this is these conversations. So number one, you work in healthcare, Verlon, as you said. What do you do?
I got 3 different certificates. Okay, I'm a CNA, phlebotomy, a dialysis tech, and now that I moved here to Michigan, I'm licensed to pass medicine anywhere in Michigan.
Okay, got it. Well, first and foremost, I want to say thank you for what you do, and thank you to all the healthcare workers because I know that work is very, very difficult and very challenging. You're dealing with life and death literally a lot of the time. So thank you for that. And that's sincere. That's not a gotcha. That's not, that's from the heart, man.
I appreciate that. A lot of people don't do that.
Okay. So you have experience. You know this field. The first thing I will say is it is the intent in the law that illegal immigrants do not get health care under Medicare, Medicaid, et cetera. Okay. Are there times where that happens? Of course, there's 330, 40 million people in the country, but that is not the intent of the law. And you know that, right? So let's just cut that right now, right? If you want to put something into the next law, right, to make that even more firm, you can absolutely do that. But that is clearly not the intent of the law, never has been. Yes, anybody who goes and shows up to an emergency center will still get care, right? You don't want people to just, die and bleed out, right? But again, these people, by and large, are not getting these services, even though they pay into them, by the way, right? Because immigrants and I don't know if it's legal migrants, it's kind of hard to track that number, but I believe immigrants pay about $100 billion into the healthcare system.
It's 200
billion. Okay, thank you. but they, those total kind of emergency services and some of the things that kind of slip through the cracks when it comes to Medicare. I have a statistic on it. I'm gonna try to find it. Is about $3 billion, right? So we're netting from this, even if it is technically true that there are times when they still get, some services. So let's just start with that. As far as who to blame for the shutdown, I'm gonna say something that you probably don't hear on this station very often, which is both sides are to blame. It's that simple. Both sides have to be adults, come together and negotiate, Roland. I'll agree with you. It is partially a Democratic shutdown. It's also partially a Republican shutdown. Both sides are elected to represent us and to keep the government going, and the fact that this is the longest shutdown in history is a problem. Now, who I would point to is the person that we would normally point to for most of our issues in this country, which is the man, the myth, the legend, the art of the deal, Donald J. Trump, the best deal maker that has ever come out of Manhattan. You know what I mean? If he's supposed to be this legendary deal maker, why isn't he been able to come together with the Democrats and make a deal? And I know you might say that ultimately the Democrats are using, this health care and these subsidies as a means to hold up the government. And some people would say, well, Republicans are using their side too. But there's a reason why 60 votes are put into the Constitution. It's so that both sides work together. And that's why I'm saying it's on both sides. What do you think about that?
I can't totally sign on to that because I know it's easy to try to blame Republicans. Throughout history, Republicans always get blamed for the shutdown, just because if they hold the presidency, if they hold the Senate,
power?
and if they hold the
power.
But the power. But the thing about it is, we just passed a law to stop all of this wasteful spending. Why would you let the Democrats gut the new law? That was his signature issue, was Medicaid, reforming it so it will be available for the elderly and for the people that need it.
Let me jump in here.
Why would you let the Democrats do that?
Let me just respond to that real quick. You said wasteful spending, right? Again, anybody that's listening, I encourage you to do this after we get off the phone. Please Google how much we've spent as a total as the federal government this year versus last year, because we cut a lot of jobs, hundreds of thousands of federal workers and all the contractors, and we've spent more this year than last year, right? So clearly they're not cutting wasteful spending. They're increasing spending as a whole. And whether you think some of it's wasteful or not is one part of the equation, but ultimately that's not what we're seeing, right? We do have some callers calling in. I had another great point that I was going to make, but I do want to get to another caller. You know what? Let's go and bring Roosevelt in to the conversation, and then we'll get to Dave and Hoffman Estates. I said I was going to get to every call, and man, we've already gone through 40 minutes. So Roosevelt, we'll have you on here. It'll be a shorter segment this time, just a couple minutes here. What are your thoughts here? You're on the Rickey Hendon radio show.
First of all, thank you for taking my call.
Oh, actually, can I pause you? I want to pause you. Sorry. I just remembered my thought. When it comes to SNAP, and we got away from this, but I think this is important, to the emergency funding that has already been approved, right, under previous administrations, right, Roland, you're talking about following the law, is for $4.65 billion. Donald Trump has allocated $40 billion to Argentina in the middle of this shutdown. So if we're talking about wasteful spending, Roland, you have to acknowledge that that is clearly a problem. But anyway, Roosevelt, you're on the show. What are your thoughts? And try to keep it short since we got a lot of people calling in today.
Okay, I'm going to make it super brief. First of all, Big Rick, take care of yourself, my man. So that's the first thing I want to say. Second of all, I'm glad you mentioned Argentina. Now, here's one thing you guys, in my opinion, are missing, all of you, and that's precisely Argentina. This is Trump's words. He wants to bring in beef from Argentina to lower the prices of beef here in the United States. How do you think the ranchers that voted for him down there in Texas and all over the, quote, red states that have cattle? So that's the first question. Right there, he admits that the prices are going up, specifically of beef. Second of all, wasteful spending. He's remodeling the White House, tearing down everything. There's $300 million for that. And my
private money. I'm not going to let you get away with that. Private money. Not one taxpayer dollar is going to that.
Berlin, you talked a lot, and nobody interrupted you, Berlin. So please, give me the courtesy, my man.
Chris talked a lot. Chris talked a lot, not me.
Hold on. Let me finish. Also, his goings to Qatar, Yemen, the Emirates states, he has business out there. When he went on that little trip, we spent a lot of money sending him there for what? For his investments. So there's supposed to be emoluments clause and all that. This guy's just blowing it out of the water. He took $400 million airplane that eventually, like Trump, Verlon said, that is the remodeling of the White House.
For $1 billion.
Down the line, we're going to pay for that.
So, Roosevelt, can you wrap it up for us? Because we got some other people calling in.
I'm going to wrap it up with this.
Okay.
He said from day one that the prices were going to go down. It didn't happen. He said from day one he was the man and the president of peace. On the contrary, he's bombing little boats, fishing boats in Colombia, Venezuela. So this guy has done the opposite of what he promised, just his own people like Verlon. He's done the opposite of everything he said he was going to do.
100,000 people die from fentanyl every year. I don't care.
I don't care.
Let me
finish with this, guys. Can I finish with this? I don't care. All the drugs in the world are concentrated in Venezuela. There's no due process, just like my people that you call Verlon, illegals, no due process. He's done the same thing in Chicago that he's done for the whole country, and that is not abiding by the laws and the Constitution of the United States. Period. That's it, guys. That's all I got to say.
Thank you. Paul, we can drop Roosevelt. Thank you for calling in, Roosevelt. It's always great to have you on the show. You know, and Verlon, I hear what you're saying, too, about the fentanyl. It is certainly a problem. What I will say, the thing that has been a little concerning and perhaps telling about the bombing of those fishing boats is that when they had the two people that survived, they just sent them back to their country, right? So these people were so violent and actually carrying drugs to the point where you could actually go kill them, and then you capture them. Wouldn't you bring them here for a trial, right? It kind of makes it seem like there's something sketchy going on there. We don't know. We both don't know. We both don't know.
It's happening in international waters. So if they were in our waters, yes. But it's happening in international waters, so no, send them back home.
Well, there are a lot of people.
You set an example.
One of the people that was the head of the Navy, I believe he resigned over this because there were some ethical concerns there. But again, we don't know because we haven't been able to bring these people in. Their families and some of the local governments say that some might have been drug boats, some might not have been. But still, just to be killing people kind of indiscriminately in international waters because you're suspecting that they might be a drug boat when that might not necessarily be true.
Well, it's not just drug boats. They have submarines.
Okay.
Dude, what are you doing? What are you doing with a submarine? Come on, man. Let's not play no games. These dudes are advanced. They got submarines, man.
Okay, but here's what I'm saying. Here's what I'm saying. Here's the big picture for what I'm saying. And I did see, Mary, I was going to go to you next. If you're still listening and you want to call back in, feel free to call back in. What I'm trying to say is this is how wars start at the end of the day, right? I'm not saying that fentanyl is not a problem and that, you need to have an aggressive approach to stopping that. Obviously, we can all agree on that. I don't care what side of the spectrum you're on. But the way that it's being done, the method to the madness goes a long way as well. So we're going to go to Eduardo from Florida. Eduardo, you said you want to talk about Venezuela, so this is kind of on the same topic. You're on the Rickey Hendon radio show, and if you want to try to keep it a little bit shorter, that would be great. But go ahead.
Yep.
How you doing, Eduardo?
Hey, Verlon. How's it going? Good afternoon from Tampa, Florida. This week, first point, this week Congress, because we all favor Congress making these votes, not the Sharpie. 51-49. Green lights the Venezuela operation on Thursday. They voted on that. And speaking of those boats, the boats are going to the ports of Spain, Netherlands. There's another one I forgot, Belgium. These drug boats, and they're being offloaded by Albanians. Don't laugh, but it came in Daily Mail if you want to cite the reference. So, and by the way, Mr. Petro from Colombia is, believe he's cozy with the FARCs. That's that Colombian gang over there. So, I don't, I hope we don't put troops in land, but I do support removing Mr. Maduro. He did make a move on Guyana. I do need to mention that. That never got highlighted in the news. But he did attempt to do it, and then Mr. Rubio warned him. And hopefully Mrs. Machado would be somebody more favorable as far as leading that country in a better position in the future, but it's not going to be Mr. Maduro.
Yeah. Well, what I'll say then, I mean, obviously they must have, you said it was 51-49, so they lost
51-49 on Thursday. Yeah, look it up.
Okay,
yep.
they got a majority,
yep.
Yep. We'll see. I'm not going to sit here and talk about, international, defense policy with you all, and especially since none of us have the information. I'm sure a lot of that is,
I do want to caution. So. I'm not somebody who's, I favor more human intelligence, and if possible, he does have a bounty on him, so. Yeah, I think he's outlived his usefulness. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, we'll see. I will say it is concerning, though, to see one of the heads of the Navy, kind of resign, and that kind of tells us a little bit about what might be happening behind the scenes with the way they're going about this. Because again, if you're bombing a boat and let's say it's not a drug boat, well, then you just killed people, right? You've just murdered people in cold blood. And that's not the business that we want to be.
That should be something short term. Yeah, I mean, if we're going to be doing this for a year, I think that's really going to be weird and something to question the president about.
It's evil. It's murderous, right? I mean, it's not weird. It's the worst thing you can do is take someone's life, right? And especially if somebody is just fishing, trying to provide for their family, that's not the world that we want to live in. But I don't want to talk about that too much because it's hard for us to analyze it since we don't have the classified information in front of us.
Let's see what happens moving forward in the coming days. See what happens.
We got a lot of callers calling in, Eduardo. So thanks for calling in. And we're going to go to Dave from Hoffman Estates. And then I did say again, Mary, I saw you call and drop. But if you did want to call back in, you're welcome to do so. 773-763-9278. 773-763-9278. It would be great to get more, female callers on the show and kind of hear their perspective. I love the diversity all across the board, so that would be awesome. Dave from Hoffman Estates.
Yes,
you're on the Rickey Hendon radio show with Ricky Jr. How's it going, brother?
RH2.
RH. That's a new one. I haven't heard that before.
With fentanyl, my understanding, it was coming from China to Mexico via the U.S. Venezuela only took care of, with pot and stuff like that.
Hey, listen. We got chemists here too. Like this idea that all the fentanyl is just coming in from overseas is crazy. We got chemists in America too.
But anyway, talking about the law, I'm not sure if Verlans realizes that the Senate creates the laws; they write the laws. So, if that's the case,
I never said that Donald Trump make the law. I know it goes out of the House to the Senate. He signs it into law. I mean, come on, man! Don't pull that. Don't pull it back.
You said law.
It's still his ball. It is the law. It's the law now. It's not the bill anymore. It is the law. It was signed into law. Are you serious?
Okay.
That's the law now.
Let's cool it down a little bit, guys. Let's cool it down. Dave, what was your bigger point there? Go ahead.
Well, it was that the Senate makes the law. And if they made it a law, then what are we on a holdout for, a shutdown for?
And the Senate does not make it a law. They pass it along to the president. He signs it into law. Senate don't make law.
Anyway,
he signed it into law.
And anyway, the last time that he did the shutdown, they didn't cut the SNAP. So he's just being vindictive this time.
Yeah.
So anyway,
and that's the thing. It's not just
I want to get through. So
and thanks, Dave. And it's not that they're cutting SNAP. This emergency funding is already there. They're just making a choice to withhold the SNAP, right? And I know, and God, it drives me crazy, but I have these conversations with a lot of my conservative friends all the time, and like, well, these people don't deserve it. They're lazy, blah, 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 blah. And you know what? I am sure that is true of some amount of people. We don't know what that amount is, but what we do know is that 40% of the people who receive those benefits and benefit from those benefits are children, okay? A lot of them are seniors. A lot of them are close to being seniors. Maybe they're people who worked blue-collar jobs. They worked in construction. Their bodies are now beat up in the later aspects of their life, and they need this. And by the way, what else are we going to spend our money on? I would rather spend our money on food for people who can't afford it, and maybe some people take advantage of the system, than more war, than more, money for Argentina, right? Again, not sure I ever got your response to this, Verlon, but I hope that this is maybe one of those moments that kind of breaks some of the, loyalty to MAGA. But like, how do you feel about the fact that the Trump administration ignored court orders to pay out the $4.65 billion that was already written into law, right, for the 42 million people in America? How do you feel about them withholding that money, even though the court ordered them to do so, and then at the same time giving Argentina almost 10 times as much money with that $40 billion? How do you feel about that?
Okay, now wait a minute now. All he said was he didn't have the money to do it, and the court said, well, you have to pay it out of the wait, no, come on now. They said you have to pay it out of the emergency fund, which is for disaster relief. So after about 2 days, maybe 3, he said, okay, I'll pay it, but you can only do it for half the month. Otherwise, I can't use all of the money for disaster relief. We're still in hurricane season, bro. We're still in hurricane season.
Stop. I gotta stop you. I got to stop you because this isn't accurate. This money was specifically put aside for SNAP in the event of a government shutdown. Okay, this is not hurricane disaster relief money. Okay, this money is specifically for people. And by the way, this is the most urgent and pressing issue right now. Right, there are people who are starving. What do you mean? No, it's not. There are people who are starving right now. No, hold up. No, I gotta stop you now. Because this is where it starts to get personal for me. Okay, I'm not sure if you ever grew up in or around poverty. I was never poor as a child, but there were so many people in my neighborhood that had nothing.
You're talking to somebody that grew up in a crack house.
Okay, so then you should be able.
I didn't eat half the week every week.
Okay, so you should be able to understand that there are people who have been born into situations that are not their fault. Remember, 40% of the people who receive this money are children, right? They're not responsible for those situations.
You want to talk about SNAP benefits? Bro, I've seen the system abused my whole life. I saw people get $119 in food stamps. They living with their parents. They don't need them. They take it to the Arab store and sell the $119 in food stamps for $75.
Some people. Okay,
that's wasteful spending.
Verlon. Okay, so what percent? Let's say what percent? Because we know 40% are children, right? And I'm agreeing with you. I'm sure that there are people who do that, Verlon. But what about the people who don't?
Okay, listen.
What about the people who don't?
There are able-bodied people that's choosing not to work. There are people choosing.
So do you think?
I got friends. I got friends close to me that will not work at Subway because it doesn't pay what they want. You know that for a fact. It's people choosing not to work.
Verlon, calm down. 40% of the people who get these benefits are children. Do you think children should work? Even if it's the parent. Okay, I agree with you.
It's up to the parents to feed the kids.
Okay. No, hear me out. I'm saying I agree with you, Verlon. I do think it is up to the parents to feed the children. And those parents aren't doing it. So you think the children should suffer? Put it like this. There are millions of children right now, we know for a fact, that don't have food in their homes right now.
What you're using right now is sentimentalism. That's just being sentimental.
No, that's a fact. We know.
I'm not going to fall into that
that's
argument. That's an emotional argument. No.
The facts are okay. Verlon, we got to calm it down. We do have one more caller. We'll get to him, but this is what is so frustrating because I know for a lot of the people that are Trump supporters, are friends of mine that are conservatives that have this same argument as you, they might have also grown up in a similar situation. I understand that you said you grew up in a crack house and you were hungry also.
A crack house, bro.
And credit to you for, like you said, getting your licenses and pulling yourself out of that situation. But wouldn't it have been great if you didn't have to starve when you were a child? You know what I mean? Think about how much further.
Even though my father was on drugs, my mother was on drugs. Well, my stepmother, because my real mama left when I was 5.
Right.
Even though they was on drugs, they were too ashamed to go into a public aid office and apply for food benefits and all the rest of that type of stuff. We call them food stamps back in the day.
Yeah, well, a lot of people still call them food stamps. I guess I'll say this, and then we'll go to our final caller because we got to wrap up the show. Look, I understand that some people have a problem with this, but we know for a fact that there are a lot of people out there that can't help themselves, whether they're children or maybe they can help themselves, but they need a little extra because, again, there is, I believe, I've seen numbers as high as 50% and as high as 70% of people on SNAP actually have a job, or if they don't have a job, they've still paid into it throughout their lives. This is our tax dollars, right? I would rather our tax dollars go towards this, and maybe there's a few people, maybe there's 10%, 20%, I don't know, whatever, that slip through the system that probably could be working. But at the end of the day, we know that there's a very large percent of people who receive this who actually need it, right? And I'd rather our tax dollars go there than go towards Argentina. You still never answered that, right?
Oh, with Argentina, that's foreign affairs, man. I don't, you know, that's one area. Even when I talk, that's
America
one area
first, right?
that I do not talk about.
Right. I don't talk about because there's no defending it. There's no defending it. There's no defending giving $40 billion to Argentina when $4.65 billion could pay half of the SNAP benefits for people. You know, you can double that to 9. Let's say it was $10 billion. That means you could have paid for 4 months of food for the American people for what you gave so that Trump's buddy can get reelected in Argentina. Let's go to Dave from Ohio. And Dave, you are on the Rickey Hendon radio show. You'll be our last guest caller, and then we got to wrap it up because we got about 2 minutes here. So if you can give us about 30 seconds, Dave, that'd be great.
Oh, boy, that's quick. Okay. Hi, guys. Yeah. You know what? A figure I heard speaking about SNAP, 23% of SNAP goes to Walmart workers. So we are literally subsidizing millionaires that don't pay a living wage. We've destroyed the unions over the years. There's no good jobs out there, and they outsourced all the jobs. Republicans voted for these outsourcing, even though Clinton signed it. 85% of the Congress signed for outsourcing with NAFTA and with most favored trading. So there you go. It's $119 a month. Wow, that's such a tremendous amount over there. The last guy you talked to, when you gave trillions. No,
I'm still here, bro. And I'm talking about back in the 90s. It was 119. It's $200 a month for a single person. Is $200 a month now.
I agree with some of what you're saying. I agree with some of what you're saying. But Argentina, it's ridiculous. And now all the waste going to shipping all these military to these cities.
Yeah.
Insanity.
So,
They're not solving
Dave, I gotta wrap you up here. I'm
and
sorry.
They're taking $800 million away.
Dave, I gotta wrap you up. I don't want to, but we gotta wrap up the show here. We're getting to the top of the hour. Guys. Thanks. Feel free to call in next time, Dave, and we can have more of a conversation. Verlon, thank you for joining as well. You got very vulnerable with us here, and thank you. I wish you and your family the best. But we got to wrap here.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate that.
But this has been the Rickey Hendon Radio Show. Thank you all for listening. Feel free to connect with us. Rickey Hendon on Facebook. You can connect with me. You can connect with my father. But great show today. We got to have a lot of hard conversations that we don't normally get to have with somebody who's conservative and still supports Trump. I'm still waiting for his answer on why we gave that $40 billion to Argentina. But hey, I guess we'll find out one day. You all take care.